Yeah, thanks for joining us today. We're going to, the title of today's webinar is going to be PaaS Protection and How to Keep Your Digital Agency Fit in Challenging Times. Your presenters today, in case you didn't realize, I will be one of them. My name is Aaron Porter, and I am the VP of Agency Program for Platform.sh. And I have my esteemed colleague, Patrick.
Hi there, Patrick Lima. I'm one of the product managers at Platform. And most recently, I've been working on the fleet tiers, which you probably have heard some news about, and probably maybe you were on the webinar that we had recently on fleet tiers. Looking forward to sharing more about PaaS with you today.
Great, thanks, Patrick. So, you know, there's a lot of content going on right now. Obviously, I'm sure everybody's getting invites for webinars lately. In fact, I was watching a webinar the other day about the cloud. Turns out it was way over my head.
That was good. That was good, Aaron.
Maybe
we want to move on to the topics.
Other topics. Okay, I'll try to make that my only one, even though that's now the second one. But yeah, all right. So let's have first high-level overview. We're going to shoot for around 40 minutes or so, plus some Q&A. We'll see how we do. We'd like to give everyone on the call a few minutes back at the end of this. But let's go ahead and take an overview take a look at an overview of what we'll be covering today. So we're going to start with these points. Why a PaaS, 3 steps to agency fitness, conquering technology obsolescence, the tangible benefits of a fleet approach, and then just a few minutes on why we believe the Platform.sh PaaS is the right one. So let's start with why a PaaS, right? And obviously begs the question, why start with a rhetorical question? Why ask why? Well, because that's just my style. So I'm starting with the question, why a PaaS? Because we believe that a huge part of agency fitness comes down to the tools that they use to do their work. The right PaaS should be to software development what the assembly line became for manufacturing. But despite the efficiencies that we've noticed and the things that we've seen over time with the agencies and people that we work with, the efficiencies that we see, despite all of those things gained by using a PaaS, what we see is that do-it-yourself seems to still be the most common approach to DevOps, to hosting, to your developer toolkits. People like to home grow, do their own things, and it's typically in developers' nature, right? It's that curiosity that makes great developers great developers. But another thing is that a lot of times agency owners are people, they like to talk about Amazon Web Services or Azure or Google Cloud, and that they're all so cheap and easy. But are they really? Over the course of years, and I'm almost 10 years in the PaaS specific field, and over that time, my experience has shown that oftentimes the true cost of ownership working with infrastructure directly isn't usually exposed until it's actually compared with a more efficient model, such as a PaaS. So anyway, this will lead us to our next point, which will be about agency fitness, because now, more than ever, the ability to operate in a fit and agile way has become paramount to success. Then we'll cover how a PaaS helps avoid the often fatal mistake of being overly invested into one technology. What happens to your technology if your entire operating strategy is focused on one particular technology, language, CMS, framework, etc., and then things beyond your control change rapidly, making that approach no longer as relevant as it once was? Then we're going to take a look at how a fleet approach ties all these elements together and can present additional benefits to your core business offering. And finally, we'll wrap up things by discussing why we think Platform.sh puts all of the above together into one tidy little package. So, why a PaaS? And more specifically, how does the right PaaS help keep agencies fit and future-proofed? We're going to take a step-by-step look. And while we do that, I'm going to say, please consider the following questions. First, what strategic business goals have you set for your agency? Second, what are some of the challenges you're running up against? And third, what makes a PaaS the right PaaS? So, a PaaS helps agencies navigate through obstacles. It helps keep your agency fit and your goals front and center while positioning you for success over the long haul. And whether you founded your agency back in the days of static websites or you're building a dynamic digital agency today, you've likely set some foundational short and long-term strategies for your shop. And while it doesn't necessarily make for a good strategy to change direction each time the wind blows, you do often have to make adjustments just in order to maintain course. For example, managing the pressure of the elements that are out of your control or seem like they're out of your control or your sphere of influence, things like local and global economic conditions. Clearly, we don't need to look any further than what's happening right now to adjust to the new normal, as we adjust to the new normal. And a few other things outside your control. What to do with if you're trying to manage a dry talent pool, right? You're not finding the technical skills and expertise that you need to operate as efficiently or effectively as possible. What about the speed of technological evolution? How are things changing? How are you keeping pace with that? Now, none of these factors are inherently bad on their own. In fact, challenging market conditions actually present considerable opportunities for agencies who can react quickly, and especially for those who can do more with less. And at the very least, there's always opportunities to make up ground on competitors and find pockets of opportunity that might not have otherwise presented themselves.
Yeah, and I really want to key in on that last point, that this actually can be framed as a potential opportunity. We're seeing this in facets of our own business right now. Certain markets will contract in a crisis, while others will expand. So right now, if you're a digital agency and you're working with airlines, these are hard times, no question. If you're in e-commerce, in fact, there's a glut of opportunity that we're seeing as many businesses scramble, sometimes for the first time, to open up an e-commerce arm to their business or to refocus themselves entirely or more specifically on e-commerce businesses.
Yeah, good points. Thanks, Patrick. So, keeping your agency in shape. What does all this have to do with your agency? I'll read this quote from Gartner, even though obviously everyone can read it themselves, but you're here to hear me speak, right? So, in a recent survey of more than 1,000 CIOs across the globe, enterprises fit into one of two groups, the fit and the fragile, depending on how well they fared in the turns like economic recession or data breach. More specifically, the article goes on to talk about it says fit enterprises are winning in the turns. And the survey itself, it separated CIO respondents enterprise into two different groups, the fit and the fragile, depending on how they fared. Fit enterprises tend to emerge through the turn stronger in capabilities such as funding business initiatives, attracting the right talent, while the fragile enterprises emerge less capable in those areas. Fit enterprises on average also increased their revenue by 5% per annum over the past 3 years. And that's faster than the 3.5% faster than their more fragile termed peers. Another aspect of fit agencies is the leadership. Fit leaders actively search for emerging trends or situations that require a change, and then they leverage the IT organization as an instrument to navigate that change accordingly. Enterprises that want to become fit should focus on aligning, anticipating, and adapting to these dynamic business scenarios. And the third point is alignment, and or the extent to which organizations can stay together while shifting in a new direction during crisis. It's an area where fit enterprises most outperform fragile, and that's providing the clear and effective leadership in one key area, and that's alignment. Nearly half of the FIT survey respondents rated their leaders as very effective on accurately communicating business needs to IT, compared to only 30% of the fragile enterprises that were surveyed. FIT enterprises are also more likely to have disciplined IT investment, a clear vision, consistent overall strategy, and a strong CIO-CEO relationship.
Yeah, so how does a PaaS keep your team fit? From talking to our partners, we've understood that there are some very real challenges that center around the technology itself. So what does that mean? Clearly, it can mean different things for different people. So for a developer, it might mean losing time playing with server admin instead of developing code. For the CTO or for the director of engineering, it means having to having the ability to keep up with industry trends and changes as quickly as, in fact, they're trending and changing. And that in itself is no easy task. And for a project manager, it means having to access different ever-changing environments just so that they can coordinate the approval of deliverables between their teams and between clients. And regardless of which of these personas we're talking about, a well thought out PaaS can really help reduce the friction in each of those scenarios.
Yeah, great. So let's look at this in a bit more detail, right? A PaaS, what it really does is it's freeing your team to focus 100% of their time on what they do best. Okay, and that's building and deploying innovative experiences and zero downtime managing hosting ops, infrastructure, and process.
Right. And when we're talking about this, what we're talking about is the web stack itself. And everything in the stack needs to be managed, that's clear. But does it really need to be managed by you? Your dev team delivers the most value when they focus on the code and the data that they're delivering, that they're developing for your customers, that they're treating for your customers. And everything else in the stack can really be accelerated or managed completely, abstracted away completely by the tooling. And that lets your dev team focus on what really matters: shipping great web apps and sites. And most of what we're really looking at here comes under the umbrella of DevOps. And we understand that running websites and applications can be complicated. It's expensive, it's time consuming. And when we talk about the expense, we're not just talking in terms of the cost of the infrastructure itself. It's not just what we pay to AWS, it's also the opportunity cost. What does it cost you to have your team spending time managing DevOps rather than on billable hours? And when we're talking about you as an agency, what we're really, you really have to ask yourself, where can you add the most value? And the farther you get away from managing the infrastructure, the more time your team can spend on creating value for your customers. So that really means that what we want to do is put DevOps behind us, put DevOps in the rearview mirror, and look at how we can free up more billable hours for your team, take on more projects and get them out the door faster, and at the end of the day, deliver more solutions to your clients.
Yeah, so let's actually take a look at this testimonial from Barry Fisher, who's the director of Real Life Digital. He says, with Platform.sh, we now have more fluidity in our deployment process and something we can standardize all our projects on. As a relatively small team, DevOps isn't a full-time role for any given person in our agency. So making sure we have time wisely is the most, making sure we use our time wisely is the most important thing to get right. We can now spend our time more effectively consulting with our clients to solve their business problems without the headaches of fragile and differing hosting environments. Sorry, also I'm reading from a slide that's very small, so got a little tripped up there, but just the same. I mean, I think, you know, what he's saying there is very powerful. That's the two, I would say, you know, uniquely powerful points are the ability to standardize all the projects and to effectively consult with the client to solve their business problems. Okay, so we see there are 3 steps to agency fitness, right? The first thing is, for an agency to be fit, they need to be prepared for nearly anything, right? And then here are a couple of points of that. The key, we want you to consider your operational continuity. And the key to improving operational continuity comes back to the tools that you're using, right? You need the right tools that work the way your developers work, meaning tools that follow conventions, such as Git and GitHub. These are the things that they're already using, the things that they already know how to use. So finding the tools that adapt to those or that they can use to follow those conventions are going to be more powerful for them, right? The right tools need to be adaptable. They need to enable teams to cost effectively meet client demand should client demand change, okay? And finally, you need your tools to be customizable. The most efficient solution is the one that fits your workflow, not the one that redefines it. The second step is to execute rapidly and flawlessly. To do this, I mean, today, I think, I mean, it's probably been this way for some time, but it's absolutely paramount to adopt continuous delivery by default, right? However, confidently executing continuous delivery is hard. Just as back on Patrick's slide with that entire stack of all of those things to manage, that can be quite laborious and takes away from your core business value drivers or the things that you're trying to create. So, you know, there are just so many things along the way that can break and slow you down in this process. So in order to adopt continuous delivery as a default model, you have to build confidence. And building confidence, how do you do that? Well, again, a good PaaS should let you test feature branches on live application clones without costing a ton of time to set up or tear down as needed. It's really, again, about customizing to your workflow. It needs to let your team validate entire applications with production data before you ever need to manage or merge to the master, right? And you need a way to really ensure the data integrity for when that merge finally happens. And then finally, we want to say, you know, the ability to onboard new developers into this process rapidly without needing to trudge through steep learning curves can make all the difference between a project being delivered on time and on budget or delayed and costly. And the third step for fitness is uplift your productivity, right? You really should be able to leverage your PaaS to accelerate both the internal and client reviews and approvals. Being able to provide actual production copies of deliverables to clients and internal stakeholders is going to save loads of time. You know, think about the current process or maybe process that you followed in the past or at some point, but the array of different file types that you've had to send or different systems that you've had to grant access to, or, you know, maybe even in the worst case scenario, trying to teach people how to SSH into servers so that they can see things that are happening. You know, all of these different systems and processes, I mean, how much time has that gets lost following those processes? You know, our argument here is that, or the point we're making is that having the ability to use live links and live branches is going to streamline the user acceptance testing and review processes and remove some of that extra friction that can really get in the way of delivery. And of course, by following this model, this is going to allow for easier collaboration on single projects. It's going to allow you to work on multiple initiatives in parallel to hit deadlines. And it's doing this by removing the unnecessary bottlenecks that the bottlenecks from your review process, and having a tool set that allows your team to easily transition between different projects will give the teams that confidence to work on those multiple initiatives in parallel. Oh, I got another block of text for everybody. So here's what one of our partners, Win Jewett, founder of Oxbow Labs, has to say about his experience. I'm going to go ahead and expand this just a little bit so I can read it a bit easier. For more than 5 years, Platform.sh has been our go-to hosting solution, completely changing how we build and maintain websites. Because Platform.sh allows us to customize our development workflow, we're able to meet the unique requirements of each site. When a new feature is requested, we spin up a clone of the entire website, including the database, code, and files. We use this cloned website to build and test just this one new feature. Now, what's so powerful about that, and that's wrapping up what I was trying to say, is just how easy that is and how quickly that should be. You should be able to access things like that. The right PaaS solution will do that for you. Finally, what he ends it with, when we're ready to show the new features to our client, we pass along the URL so they can provide feedback. Deploying the new features is as simple as merging the code into the live website. For more complex sites, we may have multiple developers working on a dozen new features or bug fixes at the same time, but the process is still just as easy. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, so keeping your agency in shape, the way Win is describing here, really means adapting to the velocity of obsolescence. And that can mean the difference between flatlined or declining revenue and just wide open opportunity as new markets open up for you. So how do you do that? How do you continue to deliver high levels of service as technologies change? And I want to take a moment to really put this into real terms for a moment. The question you have to ask yourself right now is how committed are you to your current technologies? So for example, we made the transition from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. And now, as we consider Drupal 9, we also see that new technologies have emerged. And we see this historically. We've seen the rise of Drupal. We've seen the rise of Ruby on Rails. We've seen the rise of Node.js. There's Gatsby. There are static site generators. There are microservice architectures. And that's by no means a comprehensive list. And so as technology evolves, as older technologies become obsolete, how do you keep up? How do you manage those transitions from one technology to the next?
For me, this is one of the most resonating points. And so if everybody leaves here today, I hope there are a couple of key takeaways, but if nothing else, I just love saying it too. The velocity of obsolescence, right? Patrick got the coolest slide. So just, keep that in mind. I mean, I think that's a high level strategic ideal to strive towards. So. Okay, so let's talk about PaaS capabilities.
Yeah, so we're talking here about creative freedom and flexibility. If you're relying on a PaaS built on a single framework, or if in fact you're just relying on a single framework, the question you want to ask yourself is, are you painting yourself into a corner for the future? And that's why you want to think about a PaaS as something that's not exclusive to a single language or framework. And you want to look for that attribute by design. You don't want something bolted on. You don't want something as an afterthought. You really want a PaaS that's designed to be inclusive of technologies by design. So we talk about your PaaS shopping list, and there are certain things that it becomes really clear you are looking for. The first is that we're looking for a Git-driven workflow that adapts to the way that your team works, because your team already understands Git. It's already native to their idioms, if you will, to their working practices. We're looking for support for all of the major web development runtimes, from Node.js to PHP to Ruby to Java, all of them, without extra cost, no add-ons, no complicated pricing. It's included, it's built in. And so what are the common runtimes right now? What are the major web development languages? So GitHub just put out the 2019 State of the Octaverse. It's an excellent report, and you can take a look at it. But we're also looking for managed data services. What this means is you don't necessarily want to have to instantiate your own database and be responsible for its maintenance. You want data services included as an as something that's included in the PaaS that you can just add to your project. And we're talking about MySQL, Postgres, Mongo, Kafka, Elasticsearch, really all the usual suspects that may find their way into your project. And that gives your developers the maximum amount of flexibility, not just to be limited to Drupal or WordPress, but also explore Node.js, Java, Python. You're able to give your developers the ability to run front-end and back-end apps in the same project, and then deploy all of those out together. So these are some of the features that you're looking for as you consider shopping for a PaaS. And finally, you're looking for a single platform that combines technologies natively. And it's really that natively that I want to emphasize, because that's going to enable you to pivot quickly when technology changes. You're going to be able to move faster by choosing technologies that work best for a specific project without retraining your team on a new platform, and without making any additional investments or having any additional business negotiations with a new platform provider. And that's also going to enable you and your team to jump more efficiently between projects and clients without switching tools. You're not having to manage multiple logins. You're not having to manage multiple permission sets. You're not having to manage the knowledge of multiple docs and what that means when a new developer onboards. So sort of a single buyer approach, a single platform approach, really gives you the flexibility you're looking for as time goes on and as your team changes, as your projects evolve.
Okay. All right, so last one of these. Here's what CTO and managing partner of Wondrous, a digital agency in Germany, Rainier Friedrich, has to say about his experience. And he says, Platform.sh enables us to use a single solution provider for all the different technologies and approaches we use for our projects. We use this as our #1 Platform.sh benefit. We can handle a higher volume of projects and work on more projects concurrently than we could before. Obviously, I mean, we've chosen these quotes because they're wrapping up very nicely what we're saying, but you know, these are the actual experiences from people that are experiencing the benefits that we're saying you should look for, right? And ideally, the right PaaS solution for your agency should provide this type of functionality for you. So let's move on to fleets, right? And Patrick, this is gonna be back to you. This is a newer initiative with Platform.sh, but there, I think, are a lot of new benefits or a new model of thinking about these. Patrick?
Definitely. So we want to start thinking about your digital experience sites and apps as a fleet. So far, we've been talking about the features that you're looking for from a PaaS as they apply to individual projects. Pardon me, but there's another level here. And as we think about a collection of sites, what is a fleet? A fleet is just the plural or a plurality of websites. So it's just more than one website. The reality is you don't just ever manage one website, you likely manage many. And managing a single website is fairly easy, but we find that complexity grows with volume.
That's one of the other takeaway points. Complexity grows with volume. You got all the good slides, Patrick.
I'm sorry.
Missed you too.
Yeah, so who runs fleets? Well, digital agencies run fleets. And we really look at this as with a single platform, you can operate a collection of your clients' web apps, your fleet, regardless of the runtime or the framework. And this is what I was mentioning a moment ago. You can administer all of those projects, keep one set of logins, train on only one set of tools and so forth, and thereby you gain efficiencies. You more easily maintain governance across your fleet. And that means you're spending less time on all of the cruft. You're spending less time on DevOps and management, and more time on getting client features to market faster. And increasingly, we're seeing agencies develop these long-term partnerships with their customers where their clients' growth and evolution of the web properties they create together is a long-term responsibility. It's part of why we created this fleet concept. We realized that we had something extremely valuable to offer when we were talking about teams who were responsible for keeping many applications running. So think of your website in terms of a portfolio of web applications. Think of it from a fleet operations perspective for you to easily evolve and scale as your business grows. And this is really independent, again, of the framework or the runtime that you're looking at. And what we're really talking about here is the efficiency to deliver value faster.
All right, and then there's one last big point we want to make on fleet, and the reveal, please. Operating a fleet or thinking about things in terms of a fleet is the key to recurring revenue for your agency, right? Let me get into this a little bit more specifically. I feel like at this point in the webinar, if we've done a decent job of communicating the benefits of standardizing on one platform that can support multiple frameworks and technology stacks, the operational efficiencies we're talking about should be starting to become clear. But there are a few more things that we should really flush out to sort of solidify this future-proofing concept. Patrick just gave you a high-level walkthrough on the benefits of applying this fleet approach to managing your projects. But I feel it really is worth repeating that the thing that really drives value by taking a fleet approach is that it ties all of the concepts we've been talking about today into one easy-to-manage system. It makes DevOps scalable, right? And we all know that scalability lies at the heart of all optimized revenue generation, which brings me to the final point, and that is predictable recurring revenue. In addition to the technical aspects we've been talking about so far, partnering with, in addition to the technical aspects we've talked about so far, when partnering with a PaaS provider, it's also important to choose one with a partner program that creates additional revenue potential, right? It's great to get all of these tools and the optimized tool set and to have the flexibility and the customizability, and that should absolutely be sort of critical to your strategic thinking process in deciding tools. But actually working with a vendor that also finds ways to increase your revenue potential is pretty powerful, right? Ideally, the right program, it should offer incentives to either earn referrals or to allow you to manage that fleet for your clients yourselves and then earn the recurring margins on those hosting services as well. Right? This creates recurring revenue that scales with your business and creates value for the client by being able to provide them with an end-to-end experience. They consolidate their digital project with one vendor, you. For example, let's just say, let's say that you are working with a client and they have a, let's say, I don't know, $100,000 build and some support, and there's a $20,000 hosting component package. Now, in the Platform.sh partner program, as a gold partner, you would have 20% discount on that 20K spend. That's $4,000. Now, obviously, $4,000 probably isn't going to really make that much and add that much to your bottom line. But again, that's one project. How does that scale out to a fleet of projects? Do you have 10 clients that could be on that package? $40,000, that starts to actually sound like something that's having significant impact, right? And also through, just through our partner program, there are a lot of things that the partners get, such as user licenses that are free, right? And these things are all list cost, and those list pricing, they're available on the website. So any of your clients would see that this is the cost of the product. Again, it's about creating a program that we're working closely with our partners to find ways to optimize their revenue streams and create the opportunity for recurring revenue, which is predictable. And back to talking about sometimes managing the aspects that are outside of your control, it's nice when there are those things happening that you can have a certain amount of predictability, even if it is 10K, 40K, 100K. Having that predictable revenue can be a pretty powerful advantage. So, and we, the whole point of this presentation, we wanted to discuss the value of taking the right PaaS approach. There are other PaaSes out there that probably have some of these benefits, but we believe that Platform.sh and our agency program can help you address each of the points that we've discussed today. And we believe each of those points has significant value. So just at a very high glance, platform at a glance, Patrick, you want to go through that, or should I go through it?
Definitely. Yeah, so at a glance, we offer a flexible pricing model that gives you predictable cost without add-ons. We offer enterprise-grade uptime with up to 4 nines high availability guarantee. We offer fully managed database services for all of the database types that you could potentially expect to use to secure your client data. We create instant application clones with production data for every feature branch. We offer 24/7 support with guaranteed response times from an expert that spans, and that team spans 5 continents. We offer a choice of 4 IaaS providers: AWS, GCP, Azure, and Orange. And your team can run the same code across all of these platforms without making any changes. And finally, we offer a choice of geographies where you can run your applications: US, the UK, Canada, APAC, Australia, Ireland, Germany, and France. Yeah, and that's us in a nutshell.
So what is this all about? Choose the projects and the clients who energize you. Go vertical, go global. It's all up to you. If you'd like to find out more, if you want to find out more about joining our partner program, please write to agencies@platform.sh. If you'd like to explore more about managing fleets, we have a great post that's called "What is Fleet Ops?" and the DevOps approach to managing websites. You can find that on our site, platform.sh/solutions/fleetops. And if you want to try a free trial project, go spin one up. Platform.sh, sign up. It's free to get started. Thank you all so much for being here. And at this time, if there are any questions, we will spend the next couple minutes answering those. Oh, and I forgot to introduce Catherine at the very beginning. Sorry, Catherine. Catherine will be moderating and providing questions for us.
I'll forgive you this time. So we do have one question. How would the billing work in the recurring revenue example?
Oh, great. So yeah, there are 2 different scenarios there, right? There's the referral model, which basically means that your client still wants to have let's say, hold the contract, hold the paper, right? So they still are basically dealing with two vendors, which is the norm for a lot of agencies now, as well. Not always, but in that case, the agency does their digital services work, and then the client contracts directly with us, and we provide a kickback incentive to the agency for providing us that opportunity. However, under the fleet approach and the agency actually managing that relationship, then the agency is our client, right? And this is actually what I think, well, in other circles, it's basically called being a value-added reseller, right? And there are some major, massive open source companies and other non-open source technology companies as well that really use this model. And in this case, the agency itself would be holding the paper contract with us. The agency is our client. The value, the extra value that creates is it provides the opportunity for agencies to give their clients this end-to-end experience with one vendor. So they're able to add the value across the way, whether they're doing support on the application or they need support on the tool set, which falls back on us. They also get then all of the pricing discounts by being an agency partner that they can either use to capture those margins, and that gets back to the recurring revenue part, or if they so choose, they can pass those discounts on to their client as well. But of course, one of those I think is leaving money on the table. So if there's money on the table that everyone would be expecting to pay anyway, it should be going in our agency partners' pockets.
Awesome. Another question. Can you run multi-app setups on the same project, like Gatsby and Drupal, for example?
Well, the short answer
Yes.
is yes, but I think Patrick should answer that.
No, I mean, I was going to give the short answer as well. The answer is yes. You can, and the exact configuration of your repos and the topology of the application, take a look at our docs or ask on our public channel, and we can go into more detail with you there.
Yeah, actually as well, through the agency partner program, we have some trainings. We have a different series. We have a series of trainings inside of the partner portal, and we do have some training specifically about running multi-apps and also exchanging microservices and things like that. So we are actually providing the resources so that you can easily learn how to tie all that together with Platform.sh as well.
Great. And one more question. What was the source ops thing that you mentioned? Could you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, source operations is a feature that's currently in beta. And what it allows you to do is define a script on your repo, any arbitrary script on your repo, name that script, and then run it in your project on our platform at the execution of a command. And you can execute that command across as many projects as you want. So with one command, you can execute a script on one project, some of your projects, or all of your projects. So the primary use case here is dependency updates, security updates. There are other more exotic use cases that we'll be publishing in blogs coming up. But really, this is a very easy way to update dependencies. Of course, you want to do that in a branch, not on master. And this is, again, one of the places where Platform really stands out, because once you do that on a feature branch, you know that you're looking at a complete production clone on that test branch that you can then confidently push to master once you confirm that it works.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Patrick. Thanks for the questions, Catherine. I think we are pretty dang close to our goal time. So I'd like to give everybody a little bit of a transition period before they go off to their next appointments. So again, thank you everybody for joining us today. If you want more information, please reach out. We will be happy to help answer any additional questions. Thank you all. Take care. Hope you enjoyed, and see you around.
Thanks so much, everyone.